Well, here's the deal. There's several things. Everybody talks about the one that more people talk about than any, which, by the way, is not my favorite match, but it's became one of my more talked about matches, was just that little thing that King Kong Bundy and I did with the midgets at WrestleMania 3 at the Pontiac Silverdome. There's more people talk about that than ever, and it was kind of it wasn't really that good a match. It was just what it was. It was the fact that it was at an enormous crowd, and at the time it was a world record crowd. It was phenomenal to be in that crowd and do that was good. But I got to tell you the truth. The match that meant the most to me, if I really think about it, was not that match, even though I loved it, but it was the first time that I got to work a match in Madison Square Garden. Now listen, coming from down here in Kentucky, the Garden was it. Man, growing up, that's all you heard about, the famous matches they had there, not only wrestling but boxing matches, the famous things that happened in the Garden, the concerts, all the other events that were held at the Garden was just absolutely as high up on the hog as you could get, so to speak. And when yours truly got to go in that ring that night, and the first guy I ever wrestled there was a guy that I loved a whole lot. He was Sergeant Rene Goulet. He was a great, it was just a gimmick kind of match, but it was the fact that I'm in the Garden. He put that glove on kind of like Michael Jackson and tried that thing, and I caught him off the ropes and did a body slam, a body hug, I guess it was a bear hug with him. And what was so funny in the match that very day was Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito, and check this out, Andy Warhol. Joe Piscopo was there. And back in the dressing rooms, here comes Andy Warhol. There couldn't have been anybody that looked more out of place than Andy Warhol. He was like a duck in a lion's den. I mean, he was in the dressing room with all of us, and he was looking around, and he was painfully pale. You know what he looked like. I mean, Andy Warhol. And I'm thinking, and little Danny DeVito was back there, and so was Arnold and Joe Piscopo. And that was my first match that I did in the Garden. So that was one that really was a high spot. Now, there's been a lot of high spots wrestle guys. To wrestle with Andre the Giant and Russell as his partner, that was as high as you get. To wrestle with the great Harley Race, who was one of the best technicians in the world. To wrestle Don Morocco, who was one of the best, and probably one of the easiest guys in the world to wrestle, and one of the best technicians was Randy Macho Man Savage. There was nobody any lighter and better than him. And Cowboy Bob Orton was an absolute expert. It just goes on as far as high spots. It'd be so very hard to tell you and your listeners there was just one thing. I do remember the first time in the Garden, and I do remember that WrestleMania 3, which was turned out to be a big deal.